Have you ever heard your name whispered in the dark, with no one there to say it? Have you ever played a game, only to find the rules weren't what you thought? Draw the curtains, light a candle, and turn off the lights. It's story time. You've entered the 13th cycle. Chapter 2. Thumbwar. Written by Twyla Hallow. Narrated by Jessica Tyga. Part 1. Halloween held a little extra magic in Hollow Bay. Not just the usual sort of spooky cheer found in a small town on Halloween. Hollow Bay was different. There was always a little extra chill in the wind. Autumn leaves fell perfectly into piles. Candles glowed brighter. Jack-o'-lantern smiles curved wider. Candy tasted sweeter. Everything was a little more charming and a little more haunted. The lines between magic and reality felt thinner on Halloween night. The air stretched taut like plastic wrap, and somewhere on the other side of it, something pushed back. Townsfolk would catch glimpses of things, but only from the corner of their eyes, never straight on, never enough to prove anything, just enough to make the holiday extra spooky. The town of Hollow Bay allowed spirits to play, as long as they never touched the living. Until this Halloween. It had been over 2 months since they found the monster in the mirror dorm, and nothing had happened to Scarlet, Penelope, and Hazel. Nothing supernatural, anyways. Scarlet still slept with the axe next to her bed, but as the days stretched into months, the idea that she'd need to use it again became more and more abstract. Implausible. They almost started to wonder if it had been a shared dream. Almost. Marin Hall was having its annual Halloween party. The hallways were dim, overhead lights off, lit only by strings of glowy purple LEDs strung across the ceiling tiles like spiderwebs. The air was full of music, blasting from someone's Bluetooth speaker, volume so loud conversation was impractical. The dorms were full. Students dressed in cheap costumes, bumping shoulders and laughing over each other as they drifted through the halls. A few had put real effort in. One guy had a homemade astronaut suit made of dryer tubing. Another girl wore a handmade moth costume with working wings. But most of them went the sexy route. Corsets, fishnets, and heels. There were a few that went dark. Bloody clowns, skinwalkers. One kid had a trench coat and a mask like he was decomposing, with rotten teeth, stitched eyelids, and blood dripping from the corners. Hazel flinched when she saw him. He didn't say anything. He stood there in the doorway for a second, like he was scanning the crowd for someone. Then he moved on. More people kept showing up. Someone opened the fire door and propped it with a brick. The breeze that came in was cold and sharp, but it balanced out the hot, stuffy, sweat-smelling air inside. A couple hours in, after Hazel and Scarlet had done a few laps, they found themselves at the end of the second-floor hall, heads bent together, talking low. Away from the main clump of bodies, just far enough from the speakers to actually hear each other. Scarlet's roommate, Madison, drifted past, dressed as Cleopatra. Flawless, expensive-looking. Scarlet said she got the costume off Etsy, custom-made, and did an unboxing on TikTok that got 80,000 views. Madison slinked by, beaded headdress dangling in her eyes, glittering gold fabric wrapped tight across her shoulders and cinched in at the waist. She flicked her eyes at Scarlet, smirking, then turned. "Look, Lizzie Borden came," she said to her friends, loud enough for everyone to hear. They tittered and sashayed off down the hallway. Hazel blinked. "You're not dressed as Lizzie Borden," she said, eyes drifting over Scarlet's black-collared dress and braided pigtails. Scarlet shrugged and took a slow sip from her cup. "She calls me that because of my axe. I told her it's an emotional support weapon, but she doesn't believe me." Hazel's eyebrows went up. "I'm surprised she hasn't complained to the RA about you keeping it." "She thinks I'm using it as a prop to be edgy. It's one of the perks of dressing like this." Scarlet stepped back, kicking out a black-stockinged leg. Hazel followed Madison with her eyes, watching her wind lazily down the hall and join the throng. The mask-wearing zombie was gone, for now, but the feeling hadn't left. Something about tonight was off. It crept back again a little later. The same nauseating, prickling sensation she had had all day, like someone was watching her. She kept catching the shape of someone behind her, always just out of reach, always gone when she turned. Scarlet was lost in a story about her last Tinder date when it hit her, sharp. Someone was behind her, closing in, about to get her. Boo! Hazel flinched. Scarlet instinctively threw up an elbow, connecting with a windpipe. The zombie mask staggered backwards, clutching his throat, wheezing. "Oh, what the hell?" The mask sputtered, gasping. Hazel recognized the muffled voice. It belonged to the beefy, broad-shouldered, red-headed kid from her world history class. "Logan?" Logan looked up, eyes watering. He choked a few words out between coughs. "Jesus, I was just messing around." "Self-defense. Don't sneak up on unsuspecting women," Scarlet explained, flatly. Logan mumbled something and wandered off, rubbing his throat. Hazel's heart wouldn't stop pounding. Penelope showed, finally. She stepped off the stairs onto the second-floor landing and paused, looking for someone. She seemed intense, a little too alert. She wove through the crowd with her shoulders tight, scanning faces, half-sipped windbreaker crinkling faintly as she moved. Then she saw them. They were all the way at the other end. Hazel leaning against the wall in her purple mini-dress and headband. Scarlet in full black, the dress, the pigtail braids, the chunky heels. White collar and cuffs matching her pale white skin. Daphne from Scooby-Doo and Wednesday Addams, side by side. Penelope picked up speed, swerving to miss a guy in a devil cape and offered a quick, tense wave. Her face brightened as she closed in. "Sorry I'm late. I was at the library doing research," she said breathlessly. Scarlet and Hazel exchanged a quick look. Of course she was. Penelope was always doing research these days, poring over library books, scientific journals, obscure online forums. She was trying to make sense of what had happened, to understand it logically, from a scientific perspective, her two favorite words. They didn't discourage her. Grasping for a theory to hold on to seemed to be the only thing keeping her from unraveling. "What are you supposed to be?" Scarlet ran her eyes up and down Penelope's outfit. Jeans, a white crop top, and a windbreaker. Definitely not a costume. "I didn't have time to dress up." Penelope shrugged the question off. She bent her head and dropped her voice to a conspiratorial whisper. "Listen, I think I have a theory about what happened to us." Scarlet smirked and took a sip out of her cup. Penelope always had a theory. In the past 2 months, she'd run through dozens. Sleep paralysis, mass hysteria, carbon monoxide, latent trauma responses. None of them ever held up for more than a few hours, all petering out under scrutiny. Hazel didn't say anything. Her eyes drifted to the crowd around them. Nobody seemed to be paying them any attention, but the hairs on the back of her neck stood up anyway. She had a sudden urge to move, to pull them into a quieter space. This didn't feel like a conversation they should be having out in the open. Penelope licked her lips and stared them down. "We were drugged. It's the only thing that makes sense." Scarlet smirked over the top of her cup. "Except it doesn't make any sense at all." Penelope swung her eyes around the circle. "Think about it. We killed that thing in the basement. Then we woke up in bed. Sudden location shift, classic symptom of drug-induced disorientation. And the monster, it could easily have been a drug-fueled hallucination. GHB, ketamine, LSD, psilocybin, mescaline. Any one of those could cause it. Someone must have slipped it into our drinks. We were tripping. It was a bad trip." She hit the last two words like that was that. Scarlet rolled her eyes and tossed a long, dark braid over one shoulder. "Cool. So someone's been secretly dosing me for weeks? Because I saw that door every night. Who do you think it was? Madison?" Hazel shook her head, tugging at her neckerchief. "Even if it was drugs, it wouldn't explain us seeing the same thing. That's not how hallucinations work." "Scopolamine," Penelope offered quickly. "It would have made us suggestible. Someone could have told us that's what we were seeing, planted the memory." As she said it out loud, she realized how flimsy it sounded. Scarlet waved her red cup. "Stop trying to make this into a lab report. I can't believe you're making us go over this again. We saw a ghost. Get over it. I thought you'd accepted it." "It's just not possible." Penelope set her jaw, arms crossed in front of her. "Ghosts aren't real." "Maybe it was a demon." Hazel's voice hushed, as if saying it too loud might summon it back. "I mean, an actual demon. From hell." Scarlet's lips twitched. "You think the portal to hell opened up in our dorm?" Hazel frowned, pulling her bushy eyebrows together. "No, I don't know where that was, but you can't deny that place. It was unholy. It felt damned." "It was a hallucination," Penelope repeated, eyes insistent, a little crazed even. "Someone put us under and—" Hazel cut her off. "It wasn't a hallucination, Penelope. It was real. It felt as real as standing here right now." "I reject that." "Why?" Penelope looked exasperated. "Because it's not falsifiable. You tell me it was demons or goblins or ghosts, and I can't prove or disprove it. It's a dead end. It shuts down the conversation entirely. At least I'm trying to find a plausible explanation." Hazel cocked her head. "What if it was divine? Maybe it's our purpose." Penelope frowned. She tugged her zipper up an inch, then back down again. "Maybe what is our purpose?" "To kill demons," Hazel said, like it was obvious. "Ella told you how to. Exactly. She gave you directions. Maybe she's an angel." Penelope's jaw twitched. "I saw her waterlogged corpse. That's not how angels look." Scarlet smirked. "Biblically accurate angels are basically wheels full of eyeballs. Hey, Penelope, when you saw her, was Ella a wheel full of eyeballs?" Hazel gave her a sharp look, then tugged the hem of her purple mini dress, wishing it were an inch longer. "She could have been a messenger angel, like Gabriel. They appear human. Penelope, did she tell you not to be afraid?" Penelope looked at the floor. "No, I think she very much wanted us to be afraid." Scarlet pursed her lips and took another sip. "So, you think it's demons, and you say we got drugged. Do you want to know what I think it was?" "A thin place." "What's that?" Penelope asked. I guess you could call it a supernatural phenomenon. Almost every culture on the planet has some version of it. In Japanese mythology, the world is divided by invisible barriers, thresholds between the living and the dead. These barriers have entrances. We found an entrance. Penelope protested. If that were true, we would have proof. We do have proof, Scarlet bulldozed through her. Thousands of years of oral tradition. These stories pop up over and over across continents, across centuries. People wander into these entrances all the time. They take you to other realms. Nothing like heaven and hell, but they are places where the dead and the living overlap. Liminal spaces, in-between zones, bizarro worlds. The Mirror Dorm was definitely one of those. A group passed by dressed like fratty vampires, laughing loudly, glancing their way. Scarlet trailed off, letting them pass, waiting until she was sure no one was listening before continuing. In Western mythology, they call it the veil. It's like a membrane that separates the physical from the spiritual. It can be torn, but it takes energy to tear it. Massive amounts of energy. That's where the blackout came from. The lights went out right before the door appeared, remember? Spirits pull energy from whatever they can. Light, heat, battery charge, even emotion. Anything to give themselves shape. That's why the lights glitch and the air gets colder around them. You don't build a doorway to another plane without juicing the grid. Hazel glanced toward the far end of the hallway, where the crowd moved and the purple lights glittered against the walls. The party seemed to glow around the edges. All of it felt far away. She dragged in a long, slow breath and forced her eyes back to her friends. Have you guys felt weird, like in your bones weird? Like the air tastes strange today? Like more is coming? Scarlet nodded, eyes narrowing. Halloween is the night where the boundary between the spirit world and the real world wears thin. The lines get blurred. Things get in or out. Her eyes flicked to Hazel. If you're right and something is coming, it would come tonight. Penelope snapped her head up. What are you saying? Scarlet took a long, slow sip from her red solo cup. Her lipstick left a faint black crescent on the rim. She tilted her head, lips curling slightly around the edges. I'm saying, stay frosty. She teetered forward. Someone had knocked into her from behind. Just a soft jolt, but it made her stumble half a step. Excuse me. A guy slid past, tall and lean. He was dressed like Freddy Krueger, with dark hair shoved under a frayed hat and dark, smoldering eyes that flicked between them, lingering just a second too long on Hazel. No problem. Scarlet tossed the words at him, casual. He nodded, then turned his head and swept off towards the end of the hall. Scarlet raised an eyebrow, watching him go. I'll allow it, because he's cute. She turned back to Hazel. Do you know him? Hazel looked away. He's in my CAD class. Luca, I think. She smirked, one eyebrow up. She took another sip of her drink. He was definitely checking you out. You should go talk to him. No, Scarlet nudged her with an elbow. Why not? Go. Penelope and I will stay here, and she can finish telling me all about her scopolamine theory. She turned a smile on Penelope. I promise I'll listen good. Hazel turned the idea over. She didn't really want to hear more of Penelope's latest theory, or Scarlet's for that matter. So she finished her drink in 2 gulps, shoved the empty cup into Scarlet's hands, gave them a quick smile, and swept down the hall after Freddy Krueger. The crowd had thickened, and the music thudded louder the farther she moved from her friends. She weaved between clusters of kids, half dancing, half shouting over the bass. Luca was near the far end of the hallway now, talking to a small group. His back was to her. Hazel slowed as she reached them, hovering just behind him, her fingers fussing with the edge of her headband. She was working up something to say when the lights glitched. Just a flicker. Down the hall, Scarlet tensed up a little. Blackouts made her uneasy, even quick ones. After a second, they snapped back on. That's when Hazel heard it. Psst. Something about the sound made her skin prickle. She swept her eyes around the hallway, looking for the source of the whisper. Nothing but clusters of students, all clutching red cups backlit by purple glow, absorbed in their own conversations. She turned back, trying to shake it off. Then it came again. Psst. It was quiet, almost buried under the thump of music, but she heard it distinctly. It was coming from the floor, right near her feet. She turned to face it, tilting her head down slowly. There, stretching out from an unnaturally wide gap beneath one of the dorm room doors, was a hand. Pale, bony, skin stretched tight over long, knobby fingers. They twitched eagerly, wiggling like they were trying to beckon her closer. A voice leaked out from behind the door.
"Wanna play a game?"
Hazel's throat went dry. The voice didn't sound right. It was low and raspy, lazy, drawling. But there was something menacing behind it, like it was making a threat. She stared down at the hand, blinking. Then she took a step back, swaying a little. Scarlet's warning echoed in her head. Stay frosty. She opened her mouth to speak, to say no, but before the word could come out, someone behind her spoke. "What game?" Just then, a pack of half-drunk students swarmed past her, giggling and sloshing beer from their cups. A scrawny sophomore in a toga swooped in front, pretending to trip, then collapsed to the floor with a wheezing laugh as his friends howled. Hazel backed up fast, eyes on the spectacle unfolding in front of her. Then, the voice spoke again, smirking, icy, almost inhuman.
"Thumbwar."
Hazel felt something cold scrape along her spine. "Are you serious?" Someone behind her barked out a laugh. Hazel edged sideways, craning for another glimpse. The long crooked fingers were still there, with papery gray-white skin and thick yellow nails, wriggling like the legs of a pale insect. "It's a glove," she told herself. "Just someone's Halloween costume." But the longer she looked, the harder it was to believe. The knuckles bulged, skin pulled tight, almost translucent around them, with thin webs of crepe stretched between each finger. The voice crackled out of the gap with a rasp that raised the hairs on her arms. It sounded hungry, like the mouth behind the words was watering.
"If you win, I'll give you a prize."
"Okay." The scrawny sophomore dropped flat on his stomach, sweeping his toga behind him and reaching out a hand. The gathering crowd pushed in all around her, and the circle tightened, everyone shoving closer for a better view. Someone pressed right up next to her, bent close over her shoulder. Then Hazel felt a warm breath blow against her ear. "Who is that?" The words made her jump. She looked up. It was Luca, hovering next to her, palming his hat, hair slicked to his forehead with sweat. But his eyes weren't on her. They were locked on the hand. She looked back down, shifting on her feet. "I don't know." Something was happening. A laugh trickled out behind the door, thin and hollow, like water leaking through a crack. It slithered into the hallway, sliding over her skin. Her chest tightened. The laugh didn't belong to anything she could picture, human or otherwise, and in that instant, she knew with absolute certainty that she was in danger. She darted a glance around the hallway, bobbing her head above the crowd, eyes sweeping across a sea of faces she didn't recognize. Far down the hall, Scarlet caught the look. She froze mid-nod, mid-sip. Penelope was still at her ear, talking fast and gesturing. Without missing a beat, Scarlet grabbed Penelope's hand and started pulling, dragging her down the hallway toward the growing crowd. On the floor, the sophomore locked fingers with the hand, thumbs in the air, arms rigid, face flushed. He was grinning. He didn't hesitate. He didn't even look at it funny. Together, they chanted, 1, 2, 3, 4, I declare a Thumbwar! Scarlet and Penelope had reached the edge of the crowd, now threading through it to Hazel. When they got to her side, she gave her head a tight shake. It doesn't look right, she whispered. Her eyes darted down toward the door, then back up to Scarlet's. No, it doesn't, Scarlet murmured. The game had begun. It didn't last long, less than a minute. Toga Boy pinned the pale, gnarled thumb with a grunt and held it there. The crowd broke into cheers. The hand shuddered. Then, with a sudden, violent jerk, it ripped free. It retracted fast, sucked back under the door like a snake disappearing into its hole. The crowd quieted, staring down, waiting to see if it would return. 3 crisp $20 bills slid out. The boy snatched the cash and shot to his feet in amazement, holding it high over his head like a trophy. $60! He cried, voice cracking. A cheer went up in the hallway and the crowd pulled him back into a chorus of congratulations, hands thumping his back and shoulders. He smiled, drunk on victory, flushed and beaming. Another kid shoved through the bodies, a glowing white skeleton silk-screened across his black hoodie and sweats. Me next, he announced, eyes flashing as he dropped to the base of the door. The hallway shifted, circling again as they waited for the next round to begin. Luca hadn't moved. Hazel could feel it, his whole body stiff beside her. She turned her head, eyes scanning him. He was nervous. His jaw was clenched, lips mashed into a thin line, breathing deep and a little shaky. If he noticed her at all, he didn't show it. His eyes stayed fixed, pointed at the strip at the bottom of the door, like he was waiting for something to happen. The music had fallen away, and the next player was ready. The air seemed to tighten around them, brittle and expectant, all eyes fixed on the gap beneath the door. The fingers came crawling back out, slow at first, dragging along the floor like they were feeding on the anticipation. They seemed longer this time, bonier. The skin was now ashy gray and the nails were packed underneath with black like they'd clawed up through the earth to get there. The sight made Hazel shiver. The skeleton was flat on the floor, propped up on one elbow. "Let's go, bro!" he shouted, laughing, and reached forward, thumb cocked and ready. He locked fingers with it, and their voices chanted together. 1, 2, 3, 4. The battle lasted longer this time. The hand moved faster than before. It seemed stronger, too, snapping and twitching like it was juiced up on electricity. For nearly a minute, it looked like it might win, right up until the second the skeleton slammed down the bony thumb, pinning it hard with a grunt of triumph. The hall erupted in cheers, and the skeleton rocked back on his heels, rubbing his wrist, face glowing with sweat and victory. The hand retreated beneath the door. This time, 10 bills came shooting out, spinning across the tile one by one like cards from a shuffler. The skeleton dove quick, snatching up the stack as the crowd reacted. $200? Someone blurted. No fair! Why does he get more? Toga Boy stammered behind them. Another voice cut through. Who is that? The crowd took it as a cue, surging all at once, shoving their way forward. The floor in front of the gap was mobbed with students bending down, craning for a peek inside. One girl shouted up from the floor, her cheek pressed to the tile. No one's there. I don't see anything, said another. It's for TikTok, like a prank, someone offered loudly, half laughing. They gawked for a bit, taking turns on the linoleum before scrambling to their feet. People swirled around, chattering excitedly. Phones were coming out. Someone shouted something about going viral, but Hazel wasn't watching the crowd. She was watching Luca. He wasn't acting like the rest of them. He hadn't moved. He hadn't even blinked. His face looked tighter now, like he was bracing for something. His eyes were still stuck on the crack under the door, on the spot where the hand had been, and there was something flickering behind them. It looked like terror. Hazel twisted around to see Penelope and Scarlet. Scarlet was completely rigid, one hand curled around the cup she'd forgotten she was holding. Penelope blinked, shifting her weight from foot to foot. Her expression was tight and anxious. Hazel stretched an arm back, giving each of them a quick squeeze. Penelope leaned close enough for Hazel to feel the warmth of her breath. Her voice cracked. What do you think it is?
Who's next?
The words rattled out from the gap under the door, jagged like they'd escaped a throat full of gravel. The crowd had selected their next player. Bodies parted, moving to make way, and a girl stepped forward. A pretty brunette, dressed up halfway between a fireman and stripper, with a bulky khaki coat covered in reflective strips draped over flame-red lingerie. She tossed her hair over one shoulder, basking in the applause and whistles that followed her. Scarlet peered at her carefully, eyes narrowing. I know her, she murmured under her breath. She's friends with Madison. Cassidy something. The hand slithered back out again, looking even worse than before. The fingers were longer and spindlier. They didn't look human at all anymore, more like spider legs curling and stretching in anticipation. The skin was gray all over, except for fingertips that had gone rotten black. It twitched and spasmed with a sick sort of excitement. Cassidy dropped down on her knees, then quickly sprawled out on the floor. She twisted over her shoulder and flashed a grin at the watching crowd, buzzing with the thrill of attention. Everyone pressed in tighter, 100 eyes fixed on the game. Her hand shot forward. 1, 2, 3, 4! The crowd chanted, voices rolling together. The match dragged. Longer than the others. Much longer. It seemed almost interminable. After a while, all the whooping and shouting tapered off, and the crowd fell into a still, expectant silence. The fight was tense. The hand was making Cassidy work. Her grin vanished, her teeth clenched. Her face went red, sweat beading up on her brow. Her arm started to tremble. Hazel got the strangest sensation. A crawling certainty that she couldn't shake. The hand was messing with Cassidy. It could have won easily, but it didn't. It was toying with her, moving fast, then backing off like it was thinking about whether or not to toss her a win. Then, at the last second, it simply stopped. The long, gnarled thumb halted limply in the air, waiting for Cassidy to slam it down with a final, exhausted grunt. The crowd exploded in cheers. Cassidy collapsed backward with a cry of triumph, laughing breathlessly and raised her arms like a prize fighter. Madison rushed forward, teetering on her heels, beads swishing in her eyes. She pulled Cassidy to her feet to do a little twirl of victory. But Hazel knew it hadn't been a victory at all. She leaned back, voice hushed, and murmured to Scarlet, "It let her win." Scarlet nodded, eyes staring ahead. The hand shot back like lightning. The crowd held its breath, necks craning to see what prize would emerge. Something new slid out, small and shiny, glinting in the party lights. Cassidy bent down, still flushed and laughing, and scooped it up with one hand. Then, her face changed. "What the hell?" she breathed, laughter snapping off. She climbed back on her feet, trembling, looking like she couldn't believe what she was holding, like she was almost horrified by it.
"What'd you get?"
Madison shouted in her ear. "This is insane. It's my grandma's necklace," Cassidy murmured. She took a wobbly step forward and lifted her eyes to the door. "Hey you! Where did you get this?" The voice didn't reply. She stood there and stared down at the necklace coiled up in her palm. Luca lunged forward, grabbing her by the arm. Hazel didn't take her eyes off him. "Are you sure that's your grandmother's necklace?" he asked quietly. His eyes darted to the door, then back to her. Cassidy blinked up at him. Then she shook herself and forced a smile. No, it can't literally be hers. She was buried with it, but it looks just like it." The voice oozed out again, sharp and menacing. There was some twisted emotion behind it. Glee, maybe? Or hunger?
"Who's next?"
It hissed. The words sizzled through the air, part whisper, part growl, like a smile packed with razor blades. Cassidy shuffled off in a stupor, staring down at the necklace clamped in her hand. Hazel watched her go until she disappeared, swallowed up by the crowd. Then her eyes shot back to Luca. Luca had gone pale, like the blood had drained out of him all at once. Hazel's throat tightened. A chill crawled down her spine. He knew something. She spun to face Scarlet and Penelope. Their faces were grim. They had seen it too. A new player was bending to occupy the spot in front of the door, but Luca got there first. Only he wasn't there to play. He was on all fours, shoulders low, ear pressed to the ground, peering under the gap. Then he flinched, shooting upright and backwards, jaw clenched, the muscles in his throat twitching like he was going to be sick. He whirled, arms outstretched as if to fend off the crowd, shouting, "Stop! No one play with it, you hear me? Everybody, back up!" The crowd shifted, uneasy. There were murmurs. One of the fratty vampires, a boy Hazel recognized, Cole, was pushing his way through the crowd for a turn. Luca grabbed him by the shoulder, frantic. "Don't mess with it. I'm serious." "Get off, bro." Cole ducked and pulled away from Luca's grasp. The crowd had fallen silent. Luca shouted again, louder this time. "You've got to listen to me. It's gonna kill you!" The girls moved. Scarlet first. She hit the ground fast, pressing her face into the crack. A second later, she scrambled back up, eyes staring out in terror. Her voice came jagged. "What the fuck is that?" Penelope caught the look and dove, pressing her ear to the floor to see. She flinched, spine stiffening, then scrambled back on her hands and knees. She ripped upright, shaking all over. Last went Hazel. She dropped, flattening her chest to the ground, eyes sharp. It was dark. That was all she saw. Nothing but darkness. She inched closer, sliding one eye right up to the gap. She didn't even see it move into place. It just appeared, popping into view, filling the darkness like it had been waiting for her to get close enough. A face. Shriveled skin, ghostly white, lined all over, creased like paper that had been folded and unfolded 1,000 times. Dreadful yellow glowing eyes hung loose in hollow sockets above a wide, chattering mouth, rotting around the edges. It was smiling, or trying to. The lips had decayed, peeling away into black shreds. The teeth underneath flashed sharp, filed into jagged points, stained red like they had just bitten into flesh and hadn't licked away all the blood yet. Hazel was on her feet, staggering back. She shouted a warning to the crowd. "Everybody stop! Don't touch it!" Cole was on his knees now. He bent for a long minute, looking under the door. A nervous ripple of murmurs traveled down the hall. Phones stayed up, recording. Hazel held her breath. Cole finally straightened, grinning wide. He shrugged. "You guys are fucking with us. There's nothing there." Laughter bubbled up behind them. "It's part of the prank," someone called confidently. Cole dropped to his knees again, ready to play, but Hazel got to him first. She lunged, wrapping her arms around his shoulders, holding him back as much as she could manage. "Don't! I'm begging you!" she screamed, digging her fingernails into his skin. "Please, listen to me. I don't know what that is, but you're in danger!" She twisted to face the crowd, spitting. "We're all in danger! Do you hear me? That thing, it's going to kill us all!" You've been listening to The 13th Cycle, Thumbwar. Written by Twyla Hallow and narrated by Jessica Taiga. Stay close. You'll want to hear what happens next.